Everyone dreams about moving to Italy. The food, the weather, the lifestyle. I was just in Naples, and honestly, it's incredible. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who move to Europe don't choose Italy, but rather they choose Germany. I did the same thing. I did my master's at one of the best universities in Germany, and now I work full-time, having settled over the past 4 years. But I can't help but wonder sometimes whether I would be better off in another European country. Because like any other country in the world, Germany is not perfect. Language requirements, bureaucracy, and recently a lack of jobs. Having experienced Germany extensively and visiting Italy several times, I'm breaking down Germany versus Italy across language, lifestyle, infrastructure, and citizenship, so you don't make the wrong move. And make sure to watch till the end, because this video is not just going to be a list of pros and cons, but rather my own lived experiences with a clear position on whether Germany or Italy is better for you depending on who you are. Let's get to the first one, which is language. A common complaint of people moving to Germany is that there are high language requirements in jobs, in government offices, even in your social life. This is also one of the reasons a lot of people always chose to go to the US, UK, or Canada. Because especially for people from South Asia, English is often not a problem because they learn it in school. That's changing because more and more people are now considering Europe as an education or work destination. But the problem remains. Most people don't grow up learning German, or Italian for that matter. I've experienced this in my life in Germany. Most jobs require German, especially if you're working in a customer support function. But even recently, over the past year or two, even non-customer facing jobs like tech roles are now requiring German. If you go to government offices, the chances are that people will start conversing with you in German, even if some of these officers have to deal with people from outside Germany. But the one thing that people don't realize when they come to Germany is that this problem is even worse in Italy. Because what most people don't understand is that in Germany, large English-speaking hubs exist in the form of large cities like Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, and Frankfurt. So while it seems that German is harder to learn and Italian might sound easier to pick up in conversation, English proficiency is significantly better in Germany. This is especially true outside cities like Milan. You can notice this even as a tourist in Italy. Outside of major tourist areas, people are incredibly nice, but it's really difficult to converse with them if you don't know Italian. So even touristy things like ordering coffee or pizza become hand gestures. And even basic things like asking for directions or trying to understand transport take 4 to 5 times longer. Now imagine doing the same things for things like renting an apartment where the contracts are in Italian, visiting the doctor, and government offices. Compare this with Germany, where things feel different. Yes, there is an expectation to learn the language, but in cities like Berlin or Munich, you can survive, sometimes even work entirely in English. For instance, my job is entirely and completely in English. So as a non-European especially, you might find it easier in Germany over Italy, even though on paper, German sounds more difficult, because often the country offers more English opportunities that will be helpful for you when you move here. Which brings me to my second point. It is no surprise that the job market over the past few years in Germany has been terrible. When I came to Germany, I got 3 job offers. But over the past year and a half, the job market looks very, very different. Employers' criteria for finding employees is becoming higher and higher, which means as an employee, your chances of landing a job are becoming increasingly competitive. Just a quick side note that if you're interested in all things Germany, feel free to follow along. It really helps support the channel and helps me create realistic content about Europe and Germany. Back to the video. I have friends who've graduated from some of the best universities, some of the best programs in Germany, and are still struggling to find a job. But the incredible thing is that the situation seems to be worse in Italy. Recently, a friend of mine moved from Italy to Berlin in Germany to find a job. And according to him, most young people want to move out of Italy because of a lack of high paying, stable jobs. Now, this isn't just an opinion. According to statistics, the average German salary is around 50K versus Italy being 32K. Germany's youth unemployment is around 6% versus Italy's 22%. Italy does have some industries that win over Germany, like design, hospitality, but these are few and far between. So does that mean Italy is all bad? Not at all. This is a great segue into the next section, which is life. There is no comparison that Italy wins over food, weather, and daily sociability. As someone from South Asia, I love good food, warm weather, and loud, cheerful people. And while I don't have biryani in Italy, I can tell you that their food is equally good and cheap. For example, this pizza was €6 in Naples. Would you get that pizza in Munich for the same price? Absolutely not. It'll probably double that, around €12. The people are incredibly open and expressive. Nobody's trying to be quiet on trains, which I personally love. People talk loudly to each other, laugh loudly, and express themselves. And I personally also love how Italian sounds, so I might be biased. So if you're keeping score, Italy is winning by a margin in this category. And I want to be honest about that, because most people making these comparison videos are too proud of the country they moved to admit this. But the honest answer is that on things that you feel every single day, like the food, the weather, the way people treat each other and talk to each other, Italy wins. It's not particularly close. But here's the thing that nobody tells you. Everything I just described, the pizza, the sun, the train full of people laughing, that's the stuff you fall in love with on a 5-day trip. That's the holiday version of a country. And the decision you're actually making isn't whether I want to spend a week in a country. It's where do I want to spend the next 10 years, 20 years of my life? And the answer flips the second you stop being a tourist and start being a resident, which is exactly where Germany starts to win, in things that you don't normally notice until they start going wrong. Let me give you an example. Munich is not an exciting city. I'll just say it out loud. It's not winning any awards for nightlife or spontaneity or romance. On a Sunday, the entire place is basically closed. But I can walk out of my apartment, get on a train, and know with boring, reliable certainty that the system is going to work. The U-Bahn is clean, the roads are maintained, the building has heating that actually heats the building. In winter, when I need it, the hospital near me looks like a hospital. None of this is sexy, by the way. That's the whole point. Good infrastructure is invisible. You only notice it when things start going wrong. Now, I have to be honest, because some Germans watching this video will riot. Deutsche Bahn, our long-distance trains, are unfortunately becoming a national joke. They are late, and Germans constantly complain about it more than they complain about anything else. And based on my own experiences using long-distance trains both in Germany and Italy, it seems that Trenitalia from Italy is often more punctual. But the difference is that in Germany, a late train is a scandal. Unfortunately, this news is becoming increasingly common, but it's a scandal nonetheless. Because in a lot of places, a late train is just Tuesday. It's basically everywhere. It happens all the time. Now, to flip this around and to be fair to Italy, Italian cities are stunning. The architecture, the design, the way a random streets in Naples looks better than most planned neighborhoods in Germany. Italy is beautiful in a way that Germany is just not. But the important thing to realize is that beautiful and functional are not the same thing. Because when it's January and you're cold and you need a doctor and the heating actually has to work and the bus actually has to show up, you stop caring about what the buildings look like. You start caring about whether it works or not. And as someone from South Asia, where you kind of grew up learning to work around systems that don't often work, this one hit me harder than I thought it would. That's worth more than I would have admitted to. The relief of just not having to think about daily, everyday things that you take for granted. That's worth more than I would have expected before I moved. So in infrastructure, I'm going to give it to Germany, not because it's beautiful, but rather because it's reliable. And that brings me to the last one, because that one determines whether any of this matters or not. Because language, jobs, lifestyle, infrastructure, these decide what your life looks like. But the last point decides whether you get to keep it. Because here's something that genuinely surprised me when I looked into it. Because on paper, Italy is the country that feels like it should welcome you with open arms. Warm, friendly, it's Dolce Vita. But Italy has one of the strictest naturalization laws in Europe. If you're a non-EU citizen, which if you're watching this from South Asia, you need 10 years of continuous legal residence before you can even apply for an Italian passport. 10. There was actually a referendum in 2025 to cut this in half, down to 5. It failed. It didn't even reach the turnout they needed to count the votes. So it's still 10 years. Germany went the other direction. As of 2024, the residency requirement dropped from 8 to 5 years. And the next point is really important for some people because Germany allows dual citizenship. You can become German without giving up your Indian or Pakistani passport. This used to be impossible. Now it's really normal. For someone from South Asia, this is enormous. You're not forced to choose between where you came from and where you live. You can have both. Now, one honest caveat, because I fact-checked this stuff and you should too before making any decision. There is a lot of political pressure in Germany to tighten this back up. Some parties want to push that back to 8 years, and as of today, it's still 5. But laws move. Check the current rule the day you're watching this YouTube video. So if this matters to you, do research if this law is still intact when you watch this YouTube video. But as it stands today, Germany gives you a path to a passport in 5 years. Italy makes you wait 10 and is far less flexible. So on the single most important item, whether a place can become home and quickly, Germany wins. And it's not even close. But the direct answer to the question still remains: Germany or Italy. I told you at the start of this video that this wasn't going to be a list of pros and cons. So here's my actual position, and it depends on entirely who you are. Choose Italy if your income doesn't depend on the local job market, if you work remotely or already have an EU passport, if you're in design, food, hospitality, and fashion. These are the industries that actually Italy leads in. If you're optimizing for how your daily life feels like, and you're willing to trade some stability and a lot of bureaucracy for its sunshine, food, and people who want to hug you, if lifestyle is the whole point, Italy wins easily. But choose Germany if you're a skilled immigrant who's building a career in tech, engineering, data, finance, or science. If you need the local job market to work for you, if you're bringing a family and you want schools, healthcare, and infrastructure you don't have to think about. If you want a real path to citizenship within the next 5 years without giving up the older one. If you're optimizing for the next 10 years, not the next 10 days, choose Germany. I chose Germany. And some days when it's really gray, when the shops are closed for no reason, when someone is being extremely bureaucratic about a form, I do wonder sometimes whether I made the wrong move. But then I remember what I'm actually optimizing for. I didn't move to Europe for a vacation. I moved to build a life. And Germany, for all its coldness, the weather, and sometimes the people, is built for exactly that. Italy is where I'd like to spend my time. Germany is where I can build my life. If you're a skilled immigrant in South Asia and making this decision with real consequences and real money on the line, this distinction is everything.